Hello and welcome. Today we're going to discuss the concept of imperialism. By this time, you should know the definition of imperialism.
Right. Imperialism is the domination by one country of the political, economic, or cultural life of another country or region. Let's imagine that Mr. Dahl here is a country. Mr. Dahl has a lot of resources. Let's say that I'm another country, and I don't have a lot of resources. I don't have a lot of things, but I am stronger than Mr. Dahl.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
Let's go race right now.
What does running have to do? Never mind, this doesn't matter. We'll pretend that my country is stronger than yours.
Fine.
As I was saying, I don't have a lot of things, but I'm stronger. So I decided to start taking things from Mr. Dahl.
Hey!
Seriously? Okay. I get used to having these things, and I need more. So I decided to take. And take, and take, and take. Take.
What? Can't I stop you?
You can try, but I'm stronger. I'll win and I'll take more things. And maybe I'll put somebody in power who favors me.
So what?
What do you mean?
I mean, so what? Who cares? This is just a bunch of stuff that happened a long time ago. It doesn't even impact my life anyway.
Yeah, what he said.
I'm glad your many years have made you an expert on these matters. God.
Fair point, young scholar. Let's change tack for a moment, shall we? Mr. Dawes, can you think of any reason why we might need to learn this information?
I can think of many. One being that imperialism impacts our world even to this day.
How so?
Well, as it turns out, things today are directly influenced by what came before. If one looks at Africa, the continent, they can see the impact imperialism has had.
That's right. European nations divided African states amongst themselves, taking all sorts of material from them and exploiting labor. This made it possible for Europe to excel exponentially, but was the cause of Africa's lack of infrastructure and depleted much needed resources and took away the labor of the local peoples, which is what they needed in order for them to excel.
Not to mention that this still continues to this day.
Wait, I thought that ended during the World Wars.
State-sponsored imperialism, sure, but not the exploitation of countries for their lands. This is prevalent not only in countries where an organization worked in secret to control the flow of goods.
Like when the American CIA overthrew the Guatemalan government to make sure corporations controlled the banana market, or when the US cut off foreign aid to Chile because they wanted to prevent the spread of socialism. Both of these are forms of imperialism.
Precisely. That brings me to another way this all happens: corporate imperialism. When a private company seeks to move parts of its organization around the world so that they can control not only the parts of materials, but also the cheapest labor available. Companies, especially those of technology, take resources from all over the world and set it at prices that the people who actually make the things could never afford.
Consider what you're wearing for a moment, or what you have in your wardrobe. Some would say sweatshops where they make Nike shoes or apparel, or Shell Oil when they went to Nigeria and they extracted oil from the ground and they spilled it into the river deltas and caused millions of dollars in damage. That's a form of imperialism. They call it corporate imperialism. And now corporations are acting like nation states, going into these undeveloped or underdeveloped nations and extracting resources and exploiting labor.
You're absolutely right. History is littered with examples of extreme brutality. Slavery, for one.
Blood sports like gladiatorial games.
Mass genocide.
Genghis Khan and the Mongol Empire, plus many more.
That said, we have learned from these examples. We don't strive to do them to this day. It's okay to have a critical eye on the past, so long as you allow yourself to grow from the experience. We, as Americans, have absolutely benefited from imperialism. This, however, does not mean that we must consider imperialism to be a good thing. We can acknowledge that we succeeded, and that perhaps we need to change the way we do things into the future.
the first step to fixing a behavior is to acknowledge that one has done wrong. Only then can a way forward be seen from that waypoint. And if you are still skeptical that the US or other nations or the West benefited from the exploitation of entire continents, then consider this for a moment.
In 2010, Europe and the United States made up 15% of the world's population, yet controlled 53% of the world's wealth. It's worth thinking about.
And yet we see that it only benefits some. Have a good day.
In close, the reason we talk about imperialism is that it impacts all people to this day. So, go learn stuff. Huh. I suppose this stuff is still relevant.
I suppose that some criticism doesn't mean that I'm being told I'm wrong, but that a correct path is out there for us to find, after all, if we're brave enough to look.
Whoa, that was like actually intelligent.
It's enough out of you, nerd.